Hi, I'm Jeremy, the Zoo Nerd, coming to you live from my backyard in beautiful Los Angeles, California. Today is another very hot day here in Los Angeles with current temperatures over 102 degrees, so I'm gonna stay in the shade and try to keep this a little quick. Today in our Critter Chat, we're going to talk about the largest of all predatory fish in the world. Predatory meaning that they eat other large animals. There are two types of sharks that are bigger than the great white shark, the whale shark, and the basking shark, both of which are plankton eaters, so they eat little tiny things. But great whites are the biggest shark that eats other large animals. And although they're called the great white shark, most of their body is actually gray. So the white is on their belly. They are gray on the top surfaces. So the top of their fins, the sides of their body, the top of their head, and dorsal fin and tail are all gray color. But their belly is white. That is something called counter shading. We've talked about that a little bit on Critter Chat before. Counter shading is something that helps a lot of animals in an environment like the ocean to camouflage. So penguins also have this, right? If a penguin is swimming, which is this side, not this way, its belly is white and its top is dark color. The dark color on top helps it to blend in with things below it on the dark, shadowy ocean floor. And its lighter belly, if there's a predator underneath it looking up, that white or light colored belly helps it to blend in with the lighter surface of the ocean. So that is important for great white sharks, especially when they're little and they are possible prey for other animals. And although they are called the great white shark by many of us, there's no such thing as a lesser white shark or an average white shark. They're all the same thing. They're all white sharks. So most scientists just call them white sharks now, although they're not even all that white. But there's just one species of white shark. We call it the great white shark, but there's no lesser species or smaller white shark. Their scientific name, which is Carcharodon carcharius, I don't know, that's probably a butcher of pronunciation in Latin, but it means ragged tooth. They are known for their teeth, which are triangle shaped and very jagged on the backside. Their teeth on the top are a bit broader. Their teeth on the bottom are a bit narrower. They have over 300 teeth in their mouth at any one time, with more in the works of coming up to replace those as they lose teeth. And with that many teeth, they actually don't chew. They use those sharp teeth to break off bits and pieces of their prey into swallowable sized chunks. So they usually are kind of just tearing things apart and then they swallow those big pieces whole. They don't chew it up beforehand. White sharks can be up to 20 feet in length. The record is actually 23.5 feet in length, and that individual shark weighed 7,500 pounds. More commonly, they're going to be about 15 feet in length and weigh about 5,000 pounds. Females are usually larger than males, which is true among most shark species. And it is estimated that they can live into their 70s, although they think males live longer than females. The males are also a bit smaller. With the white sharks, we don't know a lot about their reproduction. We do know that the pups, baby sharks, are born live. There are eggs that develop inside the mom. They hatch inside the mom, and then they are born live. She also will create unfertilized eggs for those pups to feed on while they're inside her. We don't know the gestation period. We don't know how long she's pregnant for. We do know that when great white shark pups are born, they are between 3 and 4 feet in length, so they are already good size when they are born. And they can weigh up to about 50 pounds at birth. She could give birth to anywhere from between 2 up to maybe 10 pups, with some estimates being into the low teens as well. We don't really know much about like the breeding process, where that happens, when it happens, how it happens, because it hasn't really been studied or documented very well. We do know that the baby great white sharks are typically born in somewhat warmer waters of their range. So what is a great white shark's range? It is something that has been studied quite a bit, and we still keep learning more and more about it. For a long time, they thought they lived only near the coast of continents and some islands, but we found out that they migrate a lot. Like a shark from California could end up in Japan or Hawaii, or New Zealand sharks can go up as far as Japan. So they move around quite a bit. And they can travel the open ocean quite often. Generally though, they like to hang out in kind of the temperate seas. So those are the parts of the ocean that are not super cold and not really warm. They're kind of that nice middle water temperature. So like the coast of California is one place that is very popular for white sharks. And they usually give birth to their pups in slightly warmer areas. So in like the western coast of the United States, California, Oregon, Washington, they're gonna give birth in the lower portion of California and down into Mexico. They do see great white shark pups often in areas around Los Angeles. Specifically in Long Beach, they've seen several great white shark pups in recent years, and they think that that may be a kind of traditional birthing ground that is maybe becoming a little more prominent as numbers in California increase. Definitely further south along the Baja coast in Mexico, that is an important birthing ground for them as well. With those other areas of the world where great white sharks live, they are often seen in California, Australia, South Africa, and the northeast United States, the area known as New England. In that area, they weren't there for many years, but they're starting to make a bigger comeback there as the seal populations in that area are on the rise. Great white sharks are ambush predators. That means they like to kind of sneak up on their prey, and they do so by swimming low below them and then turning and coming up towards the surface and attacking their prey species from underneath. As they're little, they'll eat things like fish and then move on to bigger things, maybe like a bigger fish or a stingray. And then as adults, they usually go after marine mammals, things like seals, sea lions, and dolphins, porpoises, and potentially small whales. It is known that if orcas show up, killer whales, if they're in the area, that great white sharks will usually leave. There's not super well documented interaction between the two species, but they figure that a great white shark, which is usually alone, is going to be less of a chance of surviving against a group of orcas, which are usually together, and so it will probably leave the area. That has been documented. One thing that's pretty crazy, and great white sharks will sometimes eat dead whales. They'll scavenge off of carcasses of large whales that have died that are usually floating on the surface. That's been documented several times. And as they attack their prey, they're usually down below, and then with a burst of speed come up. They give it an initial bump with their nose and a bite with their jaws, and that's how they figure out if the animal or whatever they're attacking is potential prey. Now with that, they're usually, if it's a human they bite, they're usually not trying to eat the human, they're trying to figure out what the human is. But because they have very large mouths, very powerful jaws, and very sharp teeth, that often ends poorly for humans who get bit by great white sharks. Their mouths usually cause a lot of damage, and unfortunately most people who get bit by a great white shark end up dying from loss of blood. They don't usually get eaten, They don't usually get bit more than once, but once is usually enough to unfortunately kill most people that get bit by great white sharks. Great white sharks have the amazing ability to keep their body temperature warmer than the ocean water around them. That's kind of a newer recent development that scientists are still figuring out. There technically are some fish species, because a shark is a fish, that are warm-blooded. And so they can regulate their own internal body temperature. And with the great white sharks, they do this with a very complex circulatory system. Their veins and blood vessels in their body tend to use cooler blood in the outer areas, places like their gills or the surface of their skin, and keeping the temperature of the inner areas, places that are driving blood up to their brain, to their heart, to their other essential body organs. Those blood vessels are usually containing warmer temperature blood. Some scientists have said that they can do this by keeping their blood up to 20 degrees or more warmer than the water around them. This helps them to live in colder waters sometimes and hunt marine mammals, which have a high metabolism and can move quickly, and be able to still compete with them to catch things like a fast seal or sea lion in the ocean. Great white sharks also have a very strong sense of smell. As they get closer, they can pick up vibrations through their lateral lines, which all fish have along the side of their body to detect other fish motions. And then they can detect electricity through their ampullae de Lorenzini, which are the specialized pores on their head that all sharks have, that allow them to sense the electrical beats of hearts put off by other animals. Great white sharks are listed as vulnerable. So that is one step better than being endangered. It is unknown how many great white sharks are really out there. They've never been super common in areas. Sightings are sometimes very sporadic, and they'll appear in one area for a couple of weeks or months, and then they disappear from that area for a very long time. So it's very tricky to tell where they go when they go there. They have recently discovered an area in between California and Hawaii that was previously thought to be kind of a desert in the ocean with not a lot of life there, that they have nicknamed the White Shark Cafe. I'll be posting some more information about that later, but it's a place where great white sharks congregate in the middle of nowhere in the ocean. That's pretty interesting and could be a big clue as to potentially breeding grounds for great white sharks. As they are listed as vulnerable, the major threats that great white sharks face are overfishing and bycatch. So they are sometimes caught intentionally. People try to catch them. Most of that is either for sport fishing, because people like to have fun catching a big fish, or to collect its jaws. That's a very popular decoration piece, I guess. Or for their fins, which can be sold as souvenirs, or also their smaller fins are part of the shark fin trade, which are used in traditional shark fin soup, a very popular and pricey delicacy in a lot of Asian countries. They are also caught as bycatch. So unfortunately, they are caught sometimes in nets or fishing gear set for other types of ocean animals. This is a particular problem with baby great white sharks. As they're smaller, they get caught in a gill net, and unfortunately they then get struggle and actually drown. Great white sharks, like most sharks, need to keep swimming most of their life continually to get water flowing over their gills to get the oxygen they need from the ocean. In 2004, 183 countries who are members of the United Nations affiliated Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species, also sometimes known as CITES, agreed to the proposed regulations of controlled system of permits for all international trade. This was the first global effort to try to give the great white shark some protection. And with that, they put into place some permits. Say if you catch great white shark in the United States and you want to sell it to someone in China, you have to have a permit to do so, and there are only so many permits allotted in a given year. With that being said, those regulations are pretty loose, in that I can sell it to someone else in the US and then they can smuggle it somewhere else or whatever. So there are still problems with that. It is possible in the future that those permits might result in stricter regulations. As of now, it is not a protected species in most areas of the world. I believe Australia does have some protections for it. The US has some limited protections based on other laws that already exist, banning shark finning, for example. Our special shout out today is an organization called the Monterey Bay Aquarium. They are located in the middle of California, right on the coast. They are one of the world's leading experts in great white sharks. I'll be sharing a lot of information from them later today on the Facebook page, so make sure you check that out. They've done a lot of research on great white sharks, including putting tracking devices on them to learn where they go, when they go, how they go. They also have had great white sharks at the aquarium and are one of the very few aquariums to successfully do that in the world. And during their time of having great white sharks there, they learned a lot about them. And when they figured they had learned what they needed to learn at this time for research purposes, they put tracking devices on them and let them go back into the ocean. Most of which, I believe they had several at the same time, and they went down to Baja, Mexico area, which, like I mentioned earlier, is an important area for great white sharks. My experience with great white sharks is non-existent. I've seen them in movies and documentaries, and that is it. I have never seen one in the wild. I have never seen one in the aquarium. I hope to someday see one in the wild. I think it would be fascinating, provided I wasn't too scared. So I don't want to see one as a swimmer. I would prefer to see one when I'm on a big boat, not a little boat, not a kayak. Although people have seen them. There was a really cool video shot several years ago in Long Beach, California, not far from Los Angeles here, of a man on a paddleboard out in the bay, and he had several great white sharks swimming really close to him. So I will see if I can find that video and post it later today. He was not hurt in any way. He did not overreact. I think I would, and that would be a problem for me. I think I'd get scared and panic. But yeah, someday I hope to see great white sharks. I know that they do see them on occasion on some of the boats that go out looking for whales and dolphins. They sometimes see some of the sharks in the area as well. This concludes what I have to share today about great white sharks. I hope you enjoyed what I shared. I'll be sharing further information on the Facebook profile later today, so make sure you check that out. As always, the full episode of Critter Chat gets uploaded to YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, and on my webpage at jeremythezoonerd.com. If you've missed any of the other Critter Chats throughout the week, I have talked about other shark-related issues and shark species, so check those out as well, as we have celebrated Shark Week here on Zoo Nerd. This will conclude our Shark Week celebration. I hope you've had some fun learning about sharks. I certainly have. And as always, have fun, be happy, be healthy. Talk to you later. Bye.